Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where and when you're watching this show from. My name is Denise Belisle, and I'm a Serenity expert and positive intelligence specialist. I'm so excited to find you here today. I'm doing this show, as you know, every week, and it comes live on Monday at noon Pacific. And you can also find all my shows on my YouTube channel. So you can go to youtube.com/at Denise Belisle and find all the previous show that I've done. I'm getting close to be my my 2 years episode now. So watch out for what's coming up soon. And if you ever want to be on my show and you would like to be in touch with me, or if you find that whatever is happening here, things that I say, you would like to talk to me further, just book an appointment with me. I would be more than happy to have a chat with you. But why do I call this show It's All Good? Well, it's mainly because of my favorite cup that says it's all good. And also it's just a way of living, a way of thinking. What I realized over the years is that things of the past, I can't change it. I don't know if you succeeded to change things from the past, but you can't really change the past. You can't change your perspective of how you see the past, but the event itself, you can't change it. And things of the future, when I don't have a crystal ball that I can read through and know exactly how the future is going to be, there's always surprise for us. And so that being said, if you can't change the future and if you can't change the past and can't predict the future, what's left is right now. It's all good today, right here. And live with looking for surprises, looking for gift and everything that happened to you, whether it's positive or negative. It's like the yin and the yang. There's always a little bit of white in the black and a little bit of black in the white. And that's the balance in our life, and appreciate every moment. So without any further ado, let's welcome my guest. It's Dr. Mort Orman, and he's an anger and stress elimination expert. A little bit in common with me. I'm super excited to invite him here and for him to talk to us. So let's welcome Mort. Welcome, Mort. I'm so happy that you're here.
Well, thank you. Happy to be here.
Great, fantastic. And so tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you, Dr. Mort? So you are a doctor. Are you still practicing? Have you, like,
No.
what's going on? Who are you? Tell us a little bit about you.
So I'm Dr. Mort Orman. I'm a internal medicine doctor, retired from practice now, but I've been an internal medicine doctor for 50 years, and also 40 years as an anger and stress elimination expert.
Mm.
So I currently live in Florida, and I've been here for 2 years from Maryland, and yeah, so I'm retired now. But in my retirement years, I'm still doctoring. I'm still trying to help people improve their health and their well-being. And in some ways, I think I can do more to keep people from getting sick now, if I can help them get rid of their anger and stress, than when I was just patching people up as a doctor.
Absolutely. Like I totally agree with you. That's why I didn't go in medicine and I became a serenity expert instead. But you're right, because I feel that I did a functional medicine course. I did a full course on functional medicine, and we went through all the system, right? All the bodily function and all the endocrine system, the hormonal system, name it, everything. Study all how the body works, with the best supplement and this and that. And for me, that's why I didn't become a doctor. It was too nitty picky, too much stuff, to work with. And ideally, people that are working in functional medicine, they select one area and then they specialize in that, because the body is a very complex system. But what I realized through that, my selected area, was, why are all these systems out of whack? Most likely, a lot of the time, is because of stress. And that's what led me also, like you, like, to decide to help people eliminating stress, and at the same time eliminating degenerative disease, illness, and a lot more complication. So you say you've been dealing with helping people eliminating stress for 40 years.
Yeah.
So how did you get started to do that? Because at that time you were practicing, right?
Yes. And that was really the impetus. So I had a lot of stress. Well, I had a lot of stress in medical school and during my training. But when I went into practice, I started having more stress, and no matter what I tried to do, I couldn't really get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
I tried some stress management techniques, or most of them actually, and they might help a little bit. temporarily, but I never really got free of the stresses, which I
Yeah.
wanted to do. And then the other thing is I'm seeing my patients, so you're seeing these people and they're I know their health histories and I know what's going on in their lives and in their families. And you're seeing the people who are angry and the people who are stressed. And you're seeing they have more health problems than the people who aren't angry and aren't stressed. And
It kind of makes like
you're getting,
correlation
yeah,
between.
you're getting a little picture of the relationship, which a lot of people don't have that perspective. I mean, most people
Hmm.
go to work every day, they don't see that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
as a doctor, you see that right up close and personal.
Yeah.
And so I could see the impact that anger and stress had on people's lives, not just their health, but their lives. Things like getting divorced and having a
Hmm.
strange relationship with their kids or having a
Hmm.
business failure or partnership breakup or something. So I'm seeing all this horrible stuff happening. And I'm feeling my own stress. And I'm thinking, this is my future. If I don't do something, this could be me. so, um, so that kept me motivated to keep searching, even though I wasn't getting anywhere, and nothing I tried was really working. I just kept searching, and it actually caused me, after being in practice for a couple of years, to start doing personal development work, which a lot of doctors and other busy people don't take the time to do.
Hmm. Hmm.
I decided it was important. And I started learning all kinds of stuff that I wasn't taught in medical school, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
stuff about being human, stuff about emotions and relationships and
Hmm.
communication, things you're not really taught in medical school. And I was getting,
And as you know, you were so busy, you don't really have take the thought
yeah,
to learn more. I mean, I have already so much, right?
yeah, yeah. So I was bringing in these insights from different sources and different people, and I finally got enough of them that I put it into a system that I could use. And one of the first problems that I tackled was my anger problem.
Hmm.
And to my surprise, the system worked extremely well. And for the first time in my life, I really got control of my anger. I was able to stop it. Actually, eventually, I was able, over a couple of years, I was able to change myself from being an angry guy, which I was in my 20s and 30s, to not being angry at all.
Wow.
The
That
last
must
40
have
years,
changed your life.
yeah, the last 40 years, I've had very little anger. And if I do get angry now, which occasionally happens, I mean, it takes a lot for me to get angry now, but I know exactly where it's coming from. I know exactly how to step in. When I say no, I know where it's coming from within me,
Hmm. Hmm.
not just the outside world.
Of course,
Um,
of course.
yeah, but I know the thought patterns, the behavior patterns that have gotten
Hmm.
triggered in me, and I know how to step in and intercede and take control and stop the anger, so it doesn't last for days or weeks or even years. For some people, anger just lingers on and smolders and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, of
I'm
course, of
able
course.
I'm able to not have it most of the time, and then if I do have it, I'm able to get rid of it very quickly. So, and that's
Hmm.
great. It's been great to live that way for the last 40 years. It's been great to teach other people that skill set, how to do that.
Yeah.
It's very easy to learn and teach. And most people that work with me, they get to master the system just like I did. And it's really not that complicated. It's just we have this belief system that you can't do much about anger. And if you've been angry for a while, then that's just the way you are. That's part of your personality. And that's how you're always going to be, which is what I actually thought for
Hmm.
myself.
I'm just an angry man,
Yeah.
that's
And
it,
I'm always going to be an angry man. And I really didn't have a lot of hope that it was going to be any different. So this really shocked me when I discovered, that there's a simple way to actually get to the other side and not have
Yeah.
the anger anymore. It was like fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just curious, totally off topic, but at the same time the same. Like when you were an angry man, were you single or were you married?
I was multiply single.
Multiply single.
I would get into a
Okay.
rela- I would get into a relationship. It would last for a while, then it would fail. Then I get into another one,
Yeah,
it would
yeah,
last for a while, then it would fail. Every one of them failed. A lot of it had to do with my anger issues that
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
have
But that's
any.
what I was getting at, right? As
Yeah,
soon as you became a non-angry man, I'm
yeah. I
sure
mean,
that totally changed your life, that changed your perspective, that changed the perspective of how people see you.
well,
And
yeah, and also how I function in relationships. So, for example, 2 days from today, my wife and I are going to be celebrating our 39th wedding anniversary.
woo,
So there's
congratulations
no way in the world that would have happened when
with
I
an
was
angry man.
with the angry guy. The young angry Mort would not have lasted 39 years in a marriage, and I had the track record to prove to prove
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
that.
that's great, and
Yeah.
I'm glad I asked because it does make a difference, and people. like you were getting into relationship and that wasn't working, you were getting into relationship and that wasn't working, but then people think, like, I can't find love, women or men, right? I mean, it will work both sex, right? I mean, it's like they say I always fall with the same type of person, right? I'm always choosing the right woman, or I'm always choosing the right man. But that's because you're always the same individual that makes the same mistake, that
Yeah,
does the
and
same path, right?
if you've got anger issues and you don't understand how you're generating them,
Yeah.
it's not totally what other people are doing around you that you don't like or that you think is bad and wrong or whatever. You're generating it in you, and most of us haven't been trained to see and understand that.
Mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm.
and if you can't, it's the same thing as if somebody has a pattern, maybe it wasn't anger, but if they have a pattern of relationship failures and they keep moving from one relationship to the next, if they never figure out how they're participating in the failure of all those past relationships and
Mm-hmm.
and fix that within themselves, it's unlikely they're going to succeed down the road.
Yeah, yeah.
You gotta come to terms with whatever's within you that's messing up the relationships.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. We might. I have a tiny little spider that's walking around my camera, and I'm just waiting for it to come in front of my in front of the lens. Now she's walking from one end to the other of the screen. She's just a tiny little thing. They're pretty funny. I don't know what she's trying to do. She's trying to catch me as to create a web or something. Let me just blow her off. Go play somewhere else, uh, because I'll be distracted the whole call with that little spider going back and forth. Um, so once you discover that for yourself, she's back. Don't come back. Hold on. Go away. She's at that angle. I put her on the floor. On the floor. Go play on the floor. Here you go. Now she's on the floor. These type of ant, the tiny one that works almost like sideways, and anyway, we got them here. Now she's just like, oh, what happened to me? That's what happened when you're live. Things happen, but that's all right. So once you discover your own how to resolve your anger, so were you able to? How long did it take for you to decide to apply that with other people?
Well, almost right away. I mean, it took me a while
To
to
figure it out.
develop the system, figure it out, test it out,
Mm-hmm.
actually see that it made a difference, and then practice with it enough so that it started changing me in the way that I looked at things.
Yeah.
And then when I saw that I'd done that for myself, again, being a physician, understanding the damage that anger can do to people's health and to their life,
Mm-hmm.
it was immediately apparent to me that I had to share this technique with people because there weren't a lot of other people who had developed this particular strategy for dealing with anger. That mostly they were doing anger management stuff, which to me looked like it was mainly just working on symptoms and relieving symptoms. They weren't really getting at the root causes. So so the whole industry, the whole anger management industry was going in one direction, and here I was discovering something in a completely different direction that didn't rely on any anger management technique.
Somebody wanted attention. Now the spider. Now the cat. Believe me, it's not usually like that. But it's life. He
Yeah.
was like, he was walking all around me over there. He jumped on things. Like, come on, jump, take me.
So it was a natural progression for me because
Yeah, yeah,
part of me being a physician, wanting to be the best physician I could be. And now I had developed this technology that was simple and that really made a difference in people's lives. And I couldn't just sit on it.
yeah.
And so I started doing seminars and workshops, writing books. I've
That's great.
written 23 books on how to eliminate anger and stress.
Wow.
One of my books is How to Cure Yourself of a Fear of Spiders, by the way.
Well, I'm okay with that. She's
Yeah.
gone now. She's
Yeah.
gone to play somewhere
Yeah,
else.
you didn't seem too afraid of her.
No, no, no. Like, unless they're like that big and right in my face, it's not so much that I'm afraid of the spider, but anything that's big that moves around, I would be like, whoa, get off my face. And I'm not afraid of cats either.
Yeah, so
And
all that became a natural progression for me of trying to not just do the medical stuff that I've been trained to do,
yeah,
and that most doctors did, but realizing I had a talent for contributing to people's health and well-being, and I wanted to explore that as a sort of a non-traditional physician who mostly just stuck to the traditional medical. Most physicians stuck to the traditional medical model and medical practice, which I did.
Yeah.
But then and then I wanted to just go beyond that and offer other things to people and some of my patients, which I did. So
So
yeah.
how did that, um, how was that perceived by your peers? Because it's a little bit outside the norm,
Yeah,
right?
yes, I I didn't receive much pushback from people.
Okay, well
I
that's
guess
great.
I
As your
could have,
peers, yeah.
but I guess I wasn't really intersecting with their worlds in a big way. I wasn't threatening
Mm-hmm.
them, you know, I wasn't causing problems for them. I wasn't challenging their direct beliefs about stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When I worked with people, when they came to my courses or my coaching programs, I mean, part of what you have to do is you have to get people to question their beliefs and move beyond some of their beliefs, particularly if they're outdated or
Mm-hmm.
inaccurate. So, but with the general physician population, I really wasn't making waves and disturbing anybody enough that, you know, people would react to me in that way.
Well, good, good.
Yeah.
And were you able to, like as you mentioned, what I understood is that once you knew that that system was working, you applied yourself, and I'm sure you practice on a few folks, say, oh, look, you're upset. Well, let me help you here, see
Yeah,
if that works, right?
in the beginning, because again, I didn't know. All I knew was I had figured it out for myself,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but I didn't know, could I teach it?
Yeah.
Could I transfer that to somebody else? And I wanted to find out.
Yeah.
Okay, so I created my first program, and I invited some people to be the
That's
guinea
great.
pig,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it worked for them, and they loved it. And you know, the more I helped people, the more I got the reinforcement and the knowledge to know, yes, I could teach it. It wasn't that difficult. And
Yeah.
there's just this whole mindset that we have in society that, you know, you can't do much about it. You know, don't try, don't get your hopes up falsely. You know, it's funny. I went. Have you played with Chat GPT yet?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went on Chat GPT a couple of weeks ago, and I asked it, you know, tell me what you know about anger elimination, or what's the difference between anger management and anger elimination. And it scolded me. It, it said, don't talk to people about anger eliminate. Don't talk about anger elimination. That's getting people. You can't eliminate anger. That's getting people false, you
Oh my
know,
God.
expectations, and you know, don't do that.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny because it's you and I know it's possible
Yeah.
because we transformed our life. For me, it was in the mid '80s. I discovered emotional intelligence, and it was my step into understanding my own emotion and how I react to other people's emotion, because that's what anger is, right?
Yeah.
We react to what's in front of us
Yes.
without understanding what's going on,
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
and then at that time I decided to become 100% responsible for my emotions. And once I've done that, it didn't come overnight,
Hmm.
but I was able to, whenever things would happen, I would stop saying it's not my fault. And that's the start. I did other step into other things afterwards, but that was the start of me, really taking responsibility for my life and how I act and react in situation. And my philosophy, like I said earlier, of it's all good, even though before I created the show I was not really thinking about it this way, but as I move forward, that was for not by mistake, that did came to me because that's how I was living my life. Like, say, hey, I can't change it, like there's no point getting angry about something that happened even 1 second ago, because it's already in the past. You can't change it, right? If you drop a bottle of something and half of it get emptied because you catch it right away, well, that's something you could do in the present. But what's on the floor, you can't change it. All you have to do is clean it up and move on, right?
You've obviously heard of Tiger Woods, right? The golfer Tiger
Yeah,
Woods.
yeah.
So I remember I heard him tell a story one time. Somebody asked him how he was able to control his emotions so well on the golf course. And he said that his father, who had really taught him
Yeah.
golf when he was very young, his father had taught him how to do that. And he said his father took me aside one day and he said, you know, Tiger, you can have any emotion you want on the golf course. You don't have to be afraid of having any emotion whatsoever, as long as you don't let it last more than 8 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And that was his guiding principle that he
Yeah.
lived from, and that's how he was able to control his emotions. But
Mm-hmm.
so there's one way is just to let go of the emotion, but it doesn't require any deep insight into where the emotion's coming from to do that. You can do a lot more things when you know exactly where the emotions are coming from, which is what I was able to do, and which was what people do. Yeah.
And but once you do that, like I like that 8 second, and I've read at other places that like a minute and a half, 2 minutes max, for those
Yep.
that are not trained.
Yep.
And because the longer we stay in that emotion, then it starts to imprint itself on us, right? And then it's much harder to get out of it once you make it yours, right?
What they say is, whatever the hormones and chemicals that get stimulated in the body when we have an emotion like anger or something like that, that there's a surge of those hormones. And what they've done is they've studied if you don't do anything to prolong the emotion, it'll just naturally subside in, like, say, about 90 seconds.
Yeah.
You'll go back to baseline.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's not how we live life. I mean, we get angry and then we keep the anger going, and we
start a fire and then we pour oil on it, right?
So we keep those chemicals flowing.
Yeah. Just like how can you do this? And then you carry it the next day and the next day and the next day, and then you end up that you're always so upset, and why am I always so upset? Well, like get rid of the oil, and bring the extinguisher, and that will help. So I'm sure you talked a lot about your method, your secret sauce, and I don't know if you want to give a hint of how people can do that, and if you want to reveal it, or if you want people to reach to you after, or
I mean, I can reveal it in a general sense.
Yeah.
The problem that I had for myself when I was angry, and I discovered it's kind of a general problem that we all have to some degree, is we don't understand where anger comes from. Mm-hmm. So the common sense understanding is, we see somebody doing something bad, wrong, awful, terrible. So we see that and we feel the anger. It's like a immediate trigger. Okay. Mm-hmm. We see the event, we realize we've been triggered, we feel the anger, and that looks like the whole story to us, like it's a 1-2 cause effect process. And I didn't realize it, but there's actually 4 steps involved. It's not 1-2.
Okay.
It's 1, and then there's 2 and 3, and then there's 4, which is the anger. And the 2 and 3 happen inside our bodies and our brains.
Okay.
When I say body, I'm including everything.
Yeah, right? Of course.
Yeah. So one thing is something happens, somebody does something, somebody says something, whatever, somebody forgets to do something, whatever it is. Okay. Yeah. Somebody lies to us, somebody abuses.
Regardless. Yeah.
So something happens.
Yeah.
And then what we don't see is that triggers a certain pattern of thinking and patterns of responding that have been kind of hardwired into us over the years.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it happens like real fast. It's a knee-jerk kind of a thing. We don't see it. It's invisible, but it's there.
Yeah.
I sometimes give, when I'm teaching a workshop, I'll use the example of a computer screen and a keyboard. And if you press the A key on the keyboard and the A appears on the monitor, and I say, well, what caused the A to appear on the screen? And most people go, well, that's silly. Somebody pushed the A key. That's what caused it. But then I say, well, were there any other causes involved? And then people realize, well, there had to be a program running in the computer in the background that's invisible to us. It had to be
because
there.
It's like, you press that. If the keyboard is unplugged, nothing happened.
Yeah, right? Or if that program isn't there, and if it isn't written in a very precise way, because there's something in the computer that's telling it when that key is pressed, you put the pixels in that particular configuration, where the cursor is. And if that's not there, you don't get the A on the screen. You can press that A key all you want, okay?
Yeah.
So the same thing happens with our emotions. Somebody pushes our anger button, all right, and we feel the anger. There's a program running in our body that gets triggered.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's what's causing the emotion. It's looking at the thing, looking at the event from a certain perspective, and in a certain specific way drives the emotion. And most of us haven't been taught to understand that. And that's just the second step in the process. Then the third step, which is also invisible, is our body assumes immediately that the way we're looking at things is absolutely true. That's how things really are in the real world.
The perception of the event, we believe it's true.
Is true. So first you get the event, then inside us is the perception of the event that comes through a filtering process where we filter it. We get a perception. Our body immediately tells us that perception is true. And then if it's the right formula that you're saying is true, you get anger.
Mm.
And if it's anxiety, it's a different formula. But if that's true, you get anxiety. If it's sadness, if these
We
things,
all have those programs in our
we
brain
have all
for
the
sure.
the emotions come from the programs, plus the fact that our bodies automatically assume that the programs are true.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of a 1-2 step process, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. But 2 and 3 happen so fast and happen inside us, and nobody knows what's going on. And so they try to deal with their anger, but just dealing with 1 and 4,
Mm-hmm.
and as if 2 and 3 didn't happen. But it did. It did. Once you understand what 2 and 3 are, well, 3 is kind of self-explanatory. But when you understand what the specifics are of the filter that produces anger, now you've got control. Now you can step in and you can say, is that really true?
Mm-hmm.
Is that one really true? Is that perception really true? Is that assumption really true? And you know the questions to ask, and you know what to investigate, and you know what to see, the challenge to see if it's true or not. And a lot of times you'll find that those automatic ways of looking at things weren't really true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just to give you an example, my wife, so I cured my anger problems before I got married.
Yeah.
Fortunately.
Yeah.
And my wife doesn't get angry that often. So between the two of us, we rarely got angry with each other in our relationship.
Nice.
But early on, there was just one time when I noticed we would start to get angry with each other. It was really weird because it usually didn't happen.
Doesn't
And it
happen.
only happened when we went on a car trip somewhere.
Okay.
And even more interesting, it didn't happen when we drove to our destination. We didn't get angry at each other when we were at the destination. It was only when we drove home.
Okay.
And after that happened like 3 times in a row on 3 consecutive trips, it's like it stood out like a sore thumb. I said, there's a pattern here. Something's going on. I smell a rat. I don't know what it is. But so I started, digging into it a little bit. And it turns out that what trigger it is we'd be driving home, and my wife would say to me, I'd be driving usually, and she'd say, there's something over here I'd like to see. It's only like an hour off of our path. Let's go over there and do that. And I would go, no, we're not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
She would go, why not? I said, we're just not doing that. That's not what we're going to do. We're going home. So to me, it was like, that's wrong. Right. So my filter, the filter was, no, you don't.
That's like our path is going home. We're going to go home. We had a big day. We're going home.
You don't go an hour off your path. You go home. And in my family, in my history, my family, that's how we did it.
Mm-hmm.
When we went on a car trip, when the trip was over, we got in the car, we went directly home. We stopped for gas or food or bathroom breaks, but we never would go like an hour off the path. We just go home. Now, in her family, it was completely different. Her mother and father, they would drive home from a trip, and her mother would say, there's something over here. It's an hour and a half over here. I've never seen it. I'd like to go see it. They go over there and see it.
Yeah.
So that was what she was reacting from. So she was making this because that's what her history of driving home was like.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I realized what was going on, and I asked myself the question, is it really true that my way is right and her way is wrong?
Mm-hmm.
I had to admit, no, I have my way.
It's
my preference, my family tradition. She has hers. It's different. That doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't make me right and her wrong, but that's how I was seeing it. I was seeing I was right about how to drive home and she was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a disconnect with reality there, that was happening in the background invisibly, and I didn't even realize it. But when I realized it, I could acknowledge that, hey, she's just as right as I am to have a way of, And so from that point on, we're driving home from somewhere and she wants to go somewhere out of the way. I said, sure, fine, no problem. If it makes you happy, let's do it.
So my question is to that story. I'm sure that resolved the anger after that. Yeah. But did you consult with her in that what was going on in your mind, or did you just realize that on your own and you changed on your own without consulting her?
Actually, we talked about it, and so I didn't really know her family tradition.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as when we talked it out, and she told me how they used to do it and all that kind of stuff,
then you understood.
Helped me understand, yeah. But I didn't need her permission to let go of it myself and to
Yeah,
say,
of course, of course.
okay, I'm not going to accuse her of doing something wrong anymore. I'm not going
Yeah,
to see
yeah,
it. I'm not going to see it as bad and wrong behavior.
yeah,
If
yeah.
you see it as, you have to see it as bad and wrong behavior as the first step in generating anger. So that's why two people can be standing next to each other and they can witness the same event. Suppose you're in a grocery store and the mother's there with her kid, and the kid's misbehaving, and the mother, disciplines the kid sternly, and there are two people watching it. One person gets angry. She thinks it's a horrible way for the mother to
Yep.
do it. The other one doesn't get angry at all. She thinks it's
Yep.
terrific. That's a good mother. And they're both seeing the same. They're witnessing
Same
the same
event. Yeah.
but they have different filters and different
Yeah.
perceptions. And one perception produces anger, and one perception doesn't produce anger. It's like, that's how it is.
Yeah, yeah. I like your example. I had somebody else giving me the similar example because I've talked to somebody else that works with emotion and anger and all that. And his example, funny guy, he said there's three guys standing at the beach and looking at the water and looking at the beach, and then there's three kids coming behind them and pulling their shorts down, and then all three of them react totally differently, right?
Yeah.
and it's
we're programmed to respond to anything like that.
yeah.
Whatever our history has been, one of them may turn around and smack the kid in the face or something. One of them may get embarrassed and run away or something. Who knows what? One of them.
The other one's like, yeah, whatever, put his pants back up.
Kids will be kids,
Yeah. But that's exactly what you're saying. Like that's that press A button and it A on the screen. That's your programming. That's your neural pathway that created that reaction. And as you mentioned, it's possible to change that pathways, to decide to go in another direction, to create a new program.
Well, it's hard. It's actually hard. It's hard to do that quickly. In other words, your patterns have become ingrained in your nervous system and your brain and everything. So when you recognize them and the trouble they're causing, now you have some choice as to whether you're going to continue to engage them or do something different. But the pattern's still there. It's going to keep coming back for a while anyway. But the more you practice doing something different or seeing things differently, eventually you reconfigure your biology and your nervous system, and you start to see things differently. But it may take months or longer in some cases to actually lay down new pathways. Become predominant.
But the way you talk about your method is that it's much faster than months.
Yeah, because I'm not asking people to get rid of their automatic reactions. I'm asking them to get more visibility on them and to see them operating, to understand to know. I want people, when they get angry, when they work with me in a very short time, when they get angry, they know precisely how they're thinking when they're getting angry. And they have that knowledge for the rest of their life. They will know that every single time in their life, no matter what the trigger is, what the situation is, if they reacted with anger, then they had to be thinking A, B, C, and D, and they had to be having certain behaviors that crop in. And that gives them a very accurate, really diagnosis of what's going on inside of them whenever they're angry. And with that knowledge, then they can start asking the questions that have power. Just like I said to myself, is Christina, is my wife really wrong for wanting to go, take a side trip? And as soon as I asked that question, the answer was obviously no, she's not. But if I didn't know that was the question to ask, I didn't know that was driving the anger, that was one of the things driving the anger, I wouldn't have been able to ask that question, or I might have, if I did, it would be just by luck. But now you have precision. You have, you know what they are, exactly what things to look at to see if they're true or not. And you can often find flaws in the way where our bodies have been taught to automatically perceive things. And as soon as you do, your anger is going to just drop away if you see that there's a flaw there.
Yeah. It's all about awareness and where our anger lies, right? And
it's a shame that it's not really being taught. I mean, this stuff should be taught in high school. You shouldn't be allowed to graduate college without understanding what causes anger and anxiety and guilt.
But imagine if you taught that, that's what I was thinking when I first started to work with emotional intelligence. I was thinking we should teach that to elementary school kids. Imagine right off the courtyard, when kids are fighting with one another. What happened is that a lot of time they don't understand one another.
I think someday it will. It just hasn't happened yet. But yeah, the emotional intelligence movement is growing, and it's going to seep into the schools eventually. Somebody's going to have some good sense, and maybe the homeschooling movement where it comes in first because they have more flexibility and they're they can teach stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to encourage that as much as I can.
Like anger management in whichever form that it comes, right? Understanding, excuse me, lapses there, anger elimination. Soup, soup, the rewind.
It's not to say anger management is bad.
Yeah.
There may be times when you want to reduce the symptoms, or reduce the upset. But you just have to understand it. You're not addressing root causes. You're just addressing symptoms, and the problem is still there. The anger tendency is still there. You're going to wake up tomorrow with the same, likelihood of getting angry the day before, until you start understanding some of these root cause mechanisms.
Yeah. And next time you become angry, then you can go to the process of ABCD and ask yourself those questions and go to the source and say, no, that's not really true. Like it's.
And each time you do it, you're practicing, because each time you do it, you get better at it.
And
you actually know
goes faster. Imagine now if you have little anger, it's like
now, and you know the answer from the 10 times before when the same thing happened, the same kind of situation, and you figured out the answer. It's the same answer. The last 10 times is probably the same answer the 11th time if it's a similar situation. So it comes easier, and then you get more practice literally dissolving your anger. You become like a magician. You can wave a magic wand and just make the anger disappear. You're not really. It's not a magic wand. You got to do a little bit of self-awareness and
introspection,
examination. But it's like you can make the anger disappear.
So you mentioned earlier in your introduction that you wrote several books. So how were you able to write so many books on quote unquote the same subject?
Well, it's funny. The system that I developed for anger was not limited to anger. It was a generic system for dealing with any kind of stressful problem in life. And I applied it to anger as my first thing to test it out to prove that it worked. But when it worked, then I applied it to my relationship problems. I applied it to my fear of public speaking, which I had a tremendous fear of public speaking. I would have never done this. What we're doing, I would have been able to do it.
And then it's like, is that true? Like whatever you think people think of you.
I had all these ideas. I didn't realize at the time, but I had all these ideas about what public speaking is and what it takes to be a good public, and they were all wrong. They were all crazy ideas. But some of them I didn't even realize I had. But when I started digging around inside me to identify how I thought about public speaking, and I teased out some of these thoughts that I had about it, and then I asked myself, is this really what's true about public speaking? And I said, well, not really. But that's what I believed was true about it, and that's how I operated from those truths that weren't really truths. So when I changed some of those principles and came up with some better ones, and then practiced going out and giving speeches from that standpoint, that perspective, it was a lot easier. It was a lot less anxiety-producing. So it was the same system, and you can apply it to multiple different stressful problems. And the answers, the system is kind of generic. It's like, define the problem precisely. So is it anger? Is it anxiety? Is it a financial problem? Is it a work-related problem? So you got to define the problem, then identify step 2, identify the causes. And here's where you have to go, not just the external causes that everybody can see, but you got to look for the internal causes within you. And then once you have all those puzzle pieces on the table, external and internal causes, and you've defined the problem correctly, then the third step is deal with the causes until the problem clears up and goes away. And human beings have been using that problem-solving system ever since the dawn of civilization. You take your car to your car mechanic, and that's what they're going to do. You come to me as a doctor, and you say I'm sick. That's what I'm going to apply that same system to get to the bottom of what's going on. So it was really a pretty generic system. So a couple of the books, some of the books I wrote are general philosophical books about stress and how to think about stress in general. Others were very problem specific, like how to deal with negative thinking, how to deal with panic attacks, how to deal with test anxiety, how to deal with fear of public speaking, the fear of spiders, how to truly forgive when you have difficulty, how to deal with irritability. I just took that same system and worked it for that problem. And
so people can identify themselves a lot better.
And the answer
when it talks to
from
them.
one book to the other, the answers that come out of the causes are going to be different. But there's always going to be some level of internal causes that are involved that most people don't see unless they have a book or an author, somebody that can point them out to them in a training or a course or a book or a YouTube video or something, where they now have visibility on what's actually been going on all along that they never saw.
So I imagine you could write a book every 3 months with different topics and never ending, because there's so many different problem and issue. And
when my wife and I got married back in 1984, after our wedding, we sent out 1,100 invitations. We had 900 people accept. We were
wow.
It was.
You rented a stadium or something?
We had an outdoor. We rented a beach club. It was like a small beach club in Maryland on the Eastern Shore, and for the day. And we had people not get gifts, but just bring lunch. Make picnic lunches for themselves. And then we had a big tent with all kinds of sodas and drink beverages and condiments, desserts and things like that. And it was 100. It was June 10th, so it was 102 degrees that day. Okay, so we had like 900 people confirmed, but like 200 of them didn't show because of the heat, and it was an hour and a half drive for most people. And so, and we had all these things during the process that could have been really stressful, and weren't, because we knew how to deal with them. So at the end, we wrote a book called "How to Have a Stress-Free Wedding and Live Happily Ever After."
I love that.
We talked about our experience putting on a big wedding like that with a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that went wrong, and how we dealt with them, and sort of philosophically how anybody can approach their wedding so it reduces the amount of stress they experience planning the wedding, on the wedding day, how you can reduce the stress of the wedding, and even on the honeymoon, because there's some stress that can sometimes come on the honeymoon. And then we also had some general, relationship advice, how to be successful once the wedding day is over, how you continue to be successful. So, I mean, I've got books that are sitting on my hard drive that I've written. I haven't even, published formally.
I imagine, like, there's an endless, amount of things you could talk about to help people releasing their stress, for sure. Well, look at the time. It's already 45 minutes. I mean, I knew when I first started, before we recorded this show, I said, we could talk forever. And we probably could, because I love what you're doing. And there's got to be more of you out there to do that kind of work, because there's so many stressed out people out there that don't know what to do with themselves. They're just overwhelmed, overworked, exhausted. They're just like, I just can't do it.
Like I said, I've been retired for like 5 or 6 years now, and I feel like I can do more and different things as a doctor now to help people and to keep them healthy and reduce their illness and disability and prevent divorce and keep them from screwing up their kids, making their kids emotional wrecks, and keeping them from, losing their job or getting penalized at work or something like that. And there's so much more I can do now because I'm freed up time-wise.
Of course. And you can set up your own schedule. If you want to work 3 days a week, you can work 3 days a week and condense your clients in that time.
So I'm really feeling like I'm continuing to fulfill my life purpose as a physician and as a healer, and I'm able to do it in some better ways now than I was able when I was, taking care of patients and had all the
of course. So let's talk about how can people reach you. So what I got here is your website.
Okay. Yeah, and that's theangersolution.org. And if you go there, there's a handout that you can download called The Best Anger Elimination Method You Can Find. And it talks a little bit about anger, and then it talks about the 10-session anger elimination program that I have available for people if they want to completely turn around their anger issues and anger history. And if they want to go from being angry to not being angry, I can help them do that in just 10 short sessions. So it gives them all information on that.
Mm.
And it also gets them on my email list. And I send out emails every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'll pick a topic for the week related to anger or stress, and I'll break it into 3 parts. And I'll deliver the emails Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and by the end of the week, I've discussed the topic and how I wanted to do it. So, yeah,
Wonderful. That's awesome. So, wow, such a gem of a woman, of a man, I said of a woman. No, not yet. Of a human. That's what I wanted
yeah,
to say. To work so much, with helping people and supporting people, and I love the fact that you came from the medical industry and then decide. Well, I mean, you lived your life as a doctor. I
absolutely.
mean, you did your career. I mean, you didn't cut it short, and then now you keep working and helping people and supporting people in your own way. So congratulations and thank
Yeah,
you. I
thank you.
appreciate everything you're doing, and it was a pleasure to have you on my
It was
show.
fun. Thank you.
You're welcome. So just stay there, I'll be right back with you. Wow, that was a long one, but I hope you enjoyed it. And I will definitely, repurpose this call with a lot of people, because a lot of people need to know people like Dr. Mort, because and me, but we're all here to help you eliminating your stress, and to make you feel, that it's possible to live a life without stress. I'm the example of that. Dr. Mort is the example of that. And you could too. So don't give up. There's light at the end of the tunnel, and you can live your life stress free. So have a wonderful week. And until next time, be kind to one another. And I'll see you next time.